Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan, for June 30, 2021. And that does mean it's the end of June, and now we really truly begin summer. And here on the East Coast, Rob, Veno, and I are literally melting. I now know personally, when Joe D'Amico told us, like we asked him, how hot is your pool water, Joe? It's really nice, 86. Well, I checked my pool water today, it was 82. And it's 9 feet deep at the deep end, which means that it takes a long time for the water to heat up to that level. And it's if I want to take a bath, I'll take a bath in the house. But anyway, I want to welcome you guys to the show. Rob Veno, Tony Mejia, as always. Glad you could make it. We're going to be joined, I think, possibly by Tony Finn. I know Jesse Schulle's joining us, and we did a great show today with the Euro 2020. Has some good stuff going on, and he's been scorching hot over at Sports Memo. 67%. He's number one the last 30 days in at least two of the sports. And he is a special, I might as well say it now, JS79 gets you 1 full week of his picks, all access, all sports, 7 days. Comes out to a little bit more than $10 a day, guys. So make sure you get over there and get on board someone that has been doing this a while, just like us old timers. And let these guys start working for you tonight. There's no reason not to. So welcome to the show, Rob and Tony. Rob, how's your day going? Are you staying cool?
Yeah, we're trying our best, right, John? I mean, the humidity here in the Philadelphia area is off the charts right now. I was mentioning to you off air that we got one of those emergency warnings for flood watch through 8:30 tonight. So rain's not here yet, but it's on its way. Like I said, the last few days have been muggy as all heck here in what we call the Mid-Atlantic, right? I guess we're not really Northeast. We're more Mid-Atlantic here.
Absolutely.
But, we got air conditioning, so there's no complaining. My dog
true.
doesn't like it. My 1-year-old lab doesn't like it very much.
Yeah, I have a 3.5-year-old red fox lab named Manny.
We're drinking in his place right now.
I think we might be. Wanted to see how long that took everybody to catch on to that one. But there's not that many in the chat room yet. There's enough, though. I'm glad you guys could join us. Tony Mejia, it's Wednesday. How's your week going so far?
It's going well in terms of videos and stuff. In terms of picks, it's gone horribly. I have now seen Trae Young cost me the over on Sunday by getting hurt. And, I mean, I don't think that the Bucks were going to cover yesterday, but, you go from handicapping Young's inclusion in the lineup and setting your pick on, well, I don't think he's going to have the mobility and he won't be 100%. It'll be easier for the Bucks to throw off his rhythm and conversely throw off the Atlanta rhythm. And then he doesn't play. He's scratched, an hour before tip. And then the worry starts to set in because you're like, okay, great. He's not going to play. Maybe he would have been 100%, but probably not because that's not what you anticipated. So now you have to worry about Milwaukee's energy level. And, man, is Mike Budenholzer a disappointment because he did not have his team ready to play. I'll pin it on Giannis, too. Like, you can't play into a defense's hands and start throwing up shots that you shouldn't be taking. Like, from game one, you shouldn't be taking those shots and settling and not being aggressive early. He was aggressive in the third quarter before he got injured. That's why they started to make that comeback. And then the Hawks counterpunched, and part of that counterpunch was the Capella dunk that ultimately ends up changing this series because I don't think we'll see Giannis again. But, yeah, it was a really frustrating night because I hate losing for clients, and that's now 2 in a row. And a lot of people hop on those 5%. But again, I throw my arms up in the air sometimes because it's like you expect some certain things from at least this stage of the game. That's why it's easier to handicap games that matter. And what a no-show from Chris Middleton, from Giannis, from Budenholzer in terms of having no answers. You've got Cam Reddish coming off the bench and clowning you. So it was one of those nights. And now that series becomes who comes back first, and I think it's going to be Trae Young. And, probably game 6 might not include either of them. So real fun to handicap that one. But beyond that, and baseball's been terrible too. But
Stop your bragging,
no.
will you?
Yeah, well, it is what it is. I mean, look, when I run hot, and when I go cold, it happens. But it's not like I'm going to run and hide from it. I've done this for over a decade, so we look to get back on track. It's a marathon, but yeah, the NBA is riveting and nauseating at the same time.
Yeah, and that's well said. I don't even know how to describe last night's game other than I felt very fortunate to be on the under, and I don't know if there was any skill involved with that or not, but
no, that was a good one. I thought about the under because it correlated with Young not being 100%, but at the same time, if it got out of hand, you figured that the Hawks would go into 3-point shooting range. So, but I did like the under, and I think the under was a great pick. And yeah, I mean, like, what did you think when you heard Trae Young was out? Did you like it better for your under? Were you a little scared?
I was scared because I didn't know. I honest to God did not know how it was going to impact the game. I mean, you automatically would think inherently that, oh, well, yeah, the under's a lock now. But you don't know that because we've seen so many other guys come off the bench, fill the gap, score, career high playoffs. So there was no guarantee in it. And, in terms of my in-game betting that I like to do, I threw that right out the window because I had no feel for what was about to happen. And the way it started out was, I guess maybe like we expected it would. But I also didn't get the whole Trae sitting on the sidelines with the hoodie on and a mask. Like he was hiding. That was just a weird outfit, in my opinion. I don't know what that was all about, but I actually, when we got the news about the bone bruise, and I forget which one of you guys said that it is okay as a trainer to numb certain areas to a certain degree. I thought for sure he'd be on the court. And then when he wasn't, this is a game they have to win. So then you can ask a stupid question and say, well, gee, did Atlanta play better as a team without him than with him? Because
as a team, they definitely did. As a team, they were probably more focused defensively, and it's an old adage in the league: if you're touching the ball on offense, you're more engaged on defense. So I buy that. And you would have gotten in a lot of trouble if you're betting this game expecting that Milwaukee run. And even at halftime, I think Milwaukee was still like pick 'em, even down 13. But just because of what happened with Giannis, because I do think they would have gotten back in the game. They probably wouldn't have covered, but they might be up 3-1 at this point had we not seen that injury. But no, I mean, at the start of the game where you're seeing Middleton jack up shots and Brook Lopez take his shots, and he always does take that early three, but it's a Giannis no-show. He didn't score in the first quarter, and yet Atlanta's sharing the ball the way they did. It was disappointing to see only one team engage, and it was the one without its best player.
Yeah, I can't agree more. It was a shocking result. Just an absolute shocking. And I agree with you, Coach. There's an old philosophical, I think it was like Ptolemy, believe it or not, said there are no answers because there are no questions. And you said he had no answers. Well, he didn't even know what the questions were. And I actually did think of that ancient philosophical quote. There are no answers because there are no questions. Because he looked brain dead. I mean, just completely brain dead.
They're running the same stuff. It was awful, and it was like, all right, they're walling off the paint, and I think Barkley called it, run through that little paper wall that they have there, or Shaq, and it's true. It's like, what are you doing? Like, like he makes a concerted effort to put his head down and score when he wants to. He absolutely does, and we saw the Ben Simmons factor last night. It's kicked up to 15 with the counting down and the clear like consternation, and he's shooting it at 12 and airballing. Like, it was unbelievable.
Back-to-back airballs.
Yeah, no, clearly they got in his head, and it almost saves him the blushes that he got hurt, because he'd be getting hammered today.
Oh, he should get hammered anyway.
Hmm?
You know, I don't mean to be cold about the injury, but I mean seriously. You
Jesse
know,
feels my pain. Thank you, Jesse.
I don't think Rob. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Simmons ever threw up an air ball from the free throw line. So therefore, that makes Simmons a much better player than Giannis.
Well, yeah, and Giannis is
Right?
making a habit of it. So when you're making a habit of it, that's a little bit different.
But why don't these coaches? You know, I've always resisted this to even say this unless I'm with guys at a pub. Why doesn't a coach grab him? Because we've seen guys. You know, if we've been in bowling leagues, there's always the guy that thinks he's the pro, and he takes 20 seconds to throw a freaking bowling ball, and he averages 195. And some of the rest of us are averaging a lot higher than that, and it gets very annoying. Very annoying. Golfing. Guy stands over a 3-foot putt like his life depends on it, and he doesn't even hit the hole and rolls it 6 feet past. Then you got to wait another 2 minutes for him to putt it back, and then finally you say it's good, pick it up. But it's so in any sport. I could think of a lot of different sports. If you stand still, a body in motion, to get it back in motion is very difficult to do. You know, even in golf, you see Mickelson obviously has one of the biggest forward presses there ever was, but it's less than it was. But you need a trigger. You can't just stand there and like a statue and then expect to be able to convert something athletically. And I don't understand why the coaches don't recognize that and go to them and say, you know, what you're doing is not working. What you did before worked, but what you're doing now is not working. And man alive.
Yeah. The whole my routine is my routine thing. When the series shifted to Game 3, and then he still shot poorly. Oh no, he did pick it up for a little while, but then clearly the road affects him. And actually, we have Woj news on him. No structural damage to his knee, and so ligaments are sound. Timetable to return is unclear. You know, from my standpoint, I certainly don't expect to see him tomorrow night.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. But we'll like every other day, we'll just sit around and wait and wait and wait, and hope whatever the news is. It's certainly not a day to put the bet in early. But
you're doing it today too. I mean, I sat around all day long waiting to see Zubats because it makes a difference in the way the game is played. As we saw the other night, right, John? I mean, when we last talked about LA Phoenix, you were actually on that full game total over, which I can guarantee you was not a popular play after what had been seen the 3 games before. But all of a sudden, no Zubats. And you got 2 small ball lineups running around out there, and the over was rather easy in that game. So, it's just crazy waiting around and waiting around. It's just like regular season, right? All these shows we did regular season, you just can't go early in the NBA anymore because regardless of what the 1:30 report says, the 5:30 is almost a duplicate of the 1:30 for all intent and purposes. You just have to wait till you get some kind of, unless you can get between the lines and maybe get a beat writer that you think has a pretty good feel for what's going on with these injuries. But we'll see with Young. We'll see with Giannis. I'm like Tony. I don't expect to see him. The good news is no structural damage, like we were talking about off air before, John.
Yeah, that is good news.
And I would say that, just to Tony's point. About the start of that game. It's almost as if the Bucks had that game written in as a W when they took the floor. Trae Young's not playing. We're going to win. We don't have to do what we do best. We can go out there and do whatever and still win. They get 38 points in the first half out of that team is absolutely unacceptable, to be polite. I don't want to use any other way. It's unacceptable. And to watch it happen was just unbelievable to watch it happen.
And that's 100% on Budenholzer because you got to call. Yeah. I think they did call one down 10-2, but and then the second run right after Giannis is done. I mean, he let that go on about 5 possessions too long. So just unforgivable. And then so now with that series, that's the one thing. Like you're looking at we'll talk about it tomorrow if I'm on the show, or at least we all will face this tonight, tomorrow. Like, all right, well, let's take those guys out of the equation. What coaching staff do you trust? Well, that's an easy one.
Yeah,
what what supporting cast do you trust? And, the only reason why there would be a choice for Atlanta would be, maybe they'll show up better at home, and Atlanta's supporting cast won't play as well on the road. Now, that's about it. And is a line out or no because of the uncertainty?
No, I saw it this morning, Tony. Milwaukee 3.
All right, well, that's a standard, I guess, right? The standard home line.
Yeah.
How could they be favored by 3?
Let me see here.
It must be coaching.
Yeah, they actually are 2.5 right now, so you get a little move towards the Hawks. It's going to be even bigger now that the news, if the news comes on Giannis not being able to play.
If you like the Phoenix Suns tonight, then you have to be making the Suns minus 140 to win the title bet tonight, right?
It's going to be out of the Western Conference at this point. I agree.
Yep. Because the odds won't get any better. Because
sure.
I think Phoenix, whoever wins the West is going to be the favorite for the finals, unless the Giannis thing is a 1 week thing, which that might be. I mean, who knows? At least with the news today, it's a possibility. But certainly, I think if I'm favoring the Phoenix Suns tonight, I'm pulling the trigger on that to win it all bet.
I like that too. The only thing to take right now. It's the second series in a row now. Milwaukee looked like they were going to get killed by the Nets, and then the Nets looked like they were going to get killed by the Bucks, and now we're seeing the same repeat performance. But can you name the team that held Milwaukee to fewer than 38 points this year during the regular season? Rob,
anytime you ask a question, the answer is the Sixers. So I don't even have to know the answer for sure. I'm just going to say Sixers, and I'm going to be right.
And the answer is 29.
Yeah, man.
29.
That was the game where Ben just shut Giannis down.
He did. It was the worst half of basketball Giannis ever had.
The Heat had one of those games right after getting blown out, and it was really early in the season. It was one of those weird back-to-backs. So,
Well, before we get to the golf here, I want to bring our good friend and pal, Jesse Schulle, who survived the debut last week, and now he's back for more, and we're glad to see that. 2 for 2, and this guy's been running hot. He had a little bit of a drop-off last night, as he honestly said, which is what we're all about anyway. And he's ranked number 1 in at least 2 sports over the last 30 days, and as I said, he has that special going, so make sure you get over to Sports Memo and get on board. Don't just buy these 5%ers. We keep telling you that. And strange crap can happen, like Tony Mejia described earlier in the show tonight. You just can't base a guy's career on one shot. And even Ben Simmons gets a second chance, right? So, Jesse, welcome to the show. We're going to do just a real quick golf thing. These guys are starting to like golf quite a bit. The first time I did this, they looked at me like, can the producer please cut him off? This is worse than Tony Finn's worst 15-minute oratorio.
I'd like to think I'm too young to talk about golf. Too young to be into golf yet.
That's a good way to put it.
I've
never heard that. That is good. That's very creative. That's good.
I was thinking about taking up golf, when I'm about your age or something like that.
I didn't know you were younger.
I know it's tough to talk about looking at me.
Must have given it away. That D'Amico guy brags a lot, but he's coming on tomorrow. Hope he's prepared. Anyway, in the tournament last week, and I've been emphasizing this too, that the reason we have these shows is that we exchange ideas, we become better bettors and all that good stuff, right? So I have 2 shows with some really, really elite golf professionals, and they've been on long-term tears. We're talking like 12 events profiting out of 14, with one of those being a push, for example. So last week was the Travelers, and that was a good tournament for me. But I learned something, and the something I learned is the following. I'm watching the leaderboard late Sunday. I know I had Harris English in my DraftKings. He's climbing the leaderboard, like a meteor. All of a sudden, the tournament ends at 72 holes, but 2 guys are tied. Harris English and this guy go out, play 8 holes, all pars until the very last hole. Harris English got a birdie and won it. So I get a little superstitious once in a while. And I fear if I look or check a score, it's not. Why would I even bother? It's going to change anyway, right? It's no use seeing that you're number 9 out of 58,000 and you're winning X when you know it's going to change. So this ends, and I knew on the leaderboard I had four of my 6 guys were on the front page. And, I'm starting to, have heart palpitations, and, I probably did have more than 2 IPAs, and he wins, and I just like go nuts, and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. And I check my phone, 134th. Hey, wait, how could that be? Well, then guess what happened? The overtime doesn't count. So when I thought I jumped over everybody that had the other guy, I thought I was going to see I honestly God thought I was going to see something like 15, 20 grand. And instead it was a tenth of that, but still it was fun. But always remember to know the rules. And in PGA golf at DraftKings, 2 guys tie, they don't score any more points. But I wish it would have.
Kind of like closing out a bet in regulation in soccer. So you got that correlation now that you've.
I was going to say the same thing. How about if you had Switzerland as the big dog against France, you think you're going to win. You only find out later when you check your account. Actually, it was a draw.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and you got nothing or lost.
I'm sure there's people out there that had Switzerland that thought they won.
Oh, I'm sure you're right. So real quick, this week is the Rocket Mortgage Tournament, and it's in Detroit, Michigan, where a lot of our friends reside in Detroit. And it's the Detroit Golf Club. It's a Donald Ross was the architect and designer. That course opened up in 1916 and really hasn't been tweaked too much. There's a north and south course, and this is the first time I ever heard of this. They're using one of the holes, which I think is hole number 3, from the south course and kind of dovetailing it into the north course. And I'm not sure why that is, but it's probably because of room to have, the galleries have enough space to walk between the holes. But it's a bombers type of course, but it's going to be a course that requires elite putting. So unfortunately, a guy like Cameron Champ, who hits it a mile, but hasn't figured out the putting yet, probably not a good pick. DeChambeau probably is not a good pick. But there are some on the radar that we can talk about later towards the end of the show that are good picks. And it's an event where you have the elite golfers there. Phil Mickelson is there, but he's priced very cheaply. And I'm not sure why on that. But Jason Kokrak is a bomber, and he's a guy that flies under the radar, but he can hit it a mile. And it's going to be the guys who can get an eagle on one of those 4 par 5s. And also get the putter going. It'll be 20 under or more that wins this event in Detroit. But it'll still be fun to watch, especially if you like shootouts. So let's get to the Euro 2020. And I know Jesse has he's eyeing up the 2 games on Saturday. And I'll just quick pull up my notes here on this. The first one goes at noon, and that will be on ESPN at noon Eastern Standard Time. We have the Czech Republic against Denmark. And Denmark's recent form, they've won 3 out of the last 5. They lost 2 of the last 3, obviously winning the last one. Czech Republic has gone win, loss, draw, and then won their last 2. So these, obviously the Czech Republic is a team that most didn't see making it this far. Denmark is a team that I guess was kind of on the bubble to make it this far, but Denver is the favorite. So let's see what Jesse has to say on who we should bet on.
Well, if we learned anything from the round of 16, you don't want to have the favorites in this 3-way line unless you're awful sure that they're going to be able to outclass their opponent. And I don't know what makes anybody think that Denmark can outclass the Czech Republic. Both teams are quite lucky to be here. I mean, the Czech team had a big break when they were playing the Netherlands, a red card to one of the Dutch players, and that changed the game entirely. But Denmark, they've got some impressive results against some really inferior opposition, and they haven't looked that great against decent teams. They're still missing their leading scorer, Christian Eriksen, with the health problem there, that scare when he had the heart attack on the field. And if you're looking at another game to go into extra time, this is a prime candidate for a close game that could be decided in either extra time and penalties. And you can get the Czech Republic at plus a half goal. So that's the way to play this one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like that play quite a bit. How about the second game?
Let's add to that four of the last 5 matches between those two teams ended in a draw, and you like it even a little more.
I'm privy to know the next game is England and Ukraine. I'm privy already to know what Jesse thinks about this game, but wait till you hear it, because it is mind-boggling what some of these odds are to bet under team totals, bet under in this match. And I'll let Jesse tell you why. It's kind of head-scratching, but it's not probably, it is the right way to bet this game.
Well, if there's one team that doesn't belong here right now, it's the Ukraine. I mean, they've got no business being in this position. They're a huge underdog, of course. And England's a team that hasn't done a lot of – they haven't impressed me a lot so far, but the one thing that's impressive about England is they don't concede any goals. They haven't conceded a goal in a match in this tournament yet, and they've been quite strong defensively for quite some time. And I really like a bet on both teams to score, no. They give you the option both teams to score. You choose yes or no. I like the option no. That's quite a significant favorite at minus 175. But when you look at the fact that England hasn't conceded any goals in several matches in a row now, you look at how superior they are to the Ukraine, there's a strong chance that this ends up being another 1-0 win for England. England seems to love their 1-0 wins. Maybe 2-0. I expect a low score here, and I really don't expect Ukraine to get a goal.
And it's I'm going to tell you what the odds are, guys, because this is where it gets really interesting. Ukraine against England, over 0.5. And no, we're not talking about Ben Simmons' free throw percentage. Over 0.5, plus 102 for Ukraine. That means they have to score. Under 0.5 is minus 132. So you have to lay 132 vig to say guys are not scoring. On England's side, over 1.5 is plus 600. 6-1 dog to score 2 goals. Under 1.5 is 10-1. So you have to lay 1,000 to win 100, betting under 1.5 for England. And on paper, I think everybody would agree that looks at this game that England may not be the team that gets to the final and wins it all, but they really should come away with this win. But Jesse and I were looking at this as a prop bet that the game ends regulation time 0-0. And what were the odds on that, Jesse? It was like 5-1, 8-1?
Plus 850.
850.
8.5 to 1.
I don't trust the Ukraine defense for that, though. I really don't.
The 1-0 is 5-1. England 1-0. You get 5-1 on that.
I mean, I've looked at this game a little bit, and it's England leaving Wembley for the first time, and it's a really young team. I actually wasn't high on England coming into this tournament, and I was really high on the Netherlands coming out of this bracket because it's obviously the weaker of the two, and then the Czech Republic blew that up. Two things I'll add to what you said, Jesse. In terms of Ukraine England, it would be the most England thing in the world for Yarmolenko to score against him. He plays at West Ham, and is the key to the Ukraine engine. He's like the big catalyst that they have. So it wouldn't, because it's nervy. It's England. And then as far as Czech Republic, Denmark, I'm actually on the opposite side of that. I'm pretty sure. And tell me what you think about this. It's the fact that Denmark got off to such a slow start in this tournament because of the Eriksson factor and the fact that they had to play that immediately after watching their captain collapse on the pitch, and then they really found their footing there late and obviously come off a commanding 4-0 win over Wales. But it's this more than anything. Most of their matches in that first round came in Copenhagen. And now, they moved over to Amsterdam to beat Wales. So they've actually played something like 500 miles they've put in this tournament before traveling. And the Czech Republic leads the tournament in mileage right now of the outside of Switzerland, because Switzerland's number one, which is one reason I think they might be done against Spain. But they actually traveled the Czech Republic nearly 5,000 miles to play their games. Now they're going to Baku in Azerbaijan. Do you put any emphasis on travel in these games, or do you think because they're so spaced out now that it matters less?
Well, I must admit, that's an angle that I hadn't even considered. I mean, I was considering the location in Azerbaijan and didn't find that advantage to either side, but I guess the way you frame it there, that makes plenty of sense. I can see that, increased travel is definitely going to have a negative effect. But again, my thoughts on Denmark were their impressive results didn't really come against impressive opposition, right, in my opinion.
No, that's definitely true. This would be, I think, their toughest test of the tournament. Given their group and the expectations of the group, because they did have the Belgium match, but nobody expected much out of them because it was coming off the Eriksson issue. So this legitimately is a tough matchup. I could see it going into extra time, absolutely could. But Ukraine, England, I don't know if it's just I don't have a belief in England. They didn't concede, but they should have. Werner should have done much better with his one-on-one, and obviously we should have gotten the goal that was just completely brutalized, because it should have been 1-1 80th minute, and a guy that you expect not to missed.
Yeah, I'm not high on England either. It's just the way the brackets unfolded. It looks like they've been gifted a path. Now it's up to them to not screw it up, and of course they have a history of doing so. But as much as England has a history of failure, Ukraine is they don't even really look like they want to be here, to be honest. They haven't been impressive at all.
Kind of like the Milwaukee Bucks, I guess, huh?
Hey, John, real quick.
I mean, they looked particularly bad in their final match of the group stages.
Yeah, they almost got left out. They had to get a gift from Sweden to get in there.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Rob. I was having trouble hearing you, actually.
No, real quick, you had
there you go.
on earlier today, Carmine Bianco, and last week he laid out an entire case for Denmark at 50-1 at the time. A lot of it had to do with they were going to be playing home or very close to home their next couple of matches. He had the whole thing how it was going to break, and if you're still riding with that ticket, it's a pretty good place to hedge out of there if you don't think Denmark can get there. But if you think they can get one more game under their belt, I mean, that was a really, really good recommendation about 8 days ago by Carm to take this team. I don't really follow soccer, but I listened to his analysis and breakdown. He did it on a Saturday show for us with Joe Rainieri. Pretty good long shot right now. Denmark at the 50-1.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that analysis. It was spot on. And again, I think Denmark has really improved. But the Czech Republic was impressive against the Dutch, and Memphis Depay didn't play a game that we'd normally expect from him to as far as the Netherlands is concerned. But the Czech Republic had a little bit to do with that, and so they're playing at a high level. I think Belgium Italy is the match everybody wants to watch out of these quarterfinals. I expect Spain to defeat Switzerland, even though Switzerland blew up France. I think they'll hit the wall. But as far as competitive, Czech Republic, Denmark should be right there.
Good stuff, guys. And I had the
what
privilege
did
of
you think
having
of the red card, Tony, in the Holland Czech game?
Fortunate.
Did you agree with the call?
Yes, I did, because he got beat and then went strictly for the ball. It was almost like let's hope I can get away with this. And
I guess it was the VAR, though. I mean, the ref in real time saw it as a yellow card, instead of a red card, and I think you could make a case either way, but I just find it quite unfortunate that in a call that could go either way, when the ref on the field saw it in a certain way, and then it gets overturned, I thought was it was obviously quite unfortunate that it changed the result of the game.
No doubt, Jesse, because it was one of those things like VAR tapped them on the shoulder and say, "You sure about that? You sure you don't want to go look at that again?" And then when he did, he came back and out comes the red card.
Thankfully, I wasn't on either side in that game, so it didn't cost me any money, but it robbed me of perhaps a more entertaining match to watch.
No, I was on the Dutch, and I grudgingly said, "All right, well, yeah, I could see why." But yeah, the Netherlands, they had their chances in that game too, but really disappointing performance from them, because the bracket did favor them nicely. I think they would be playing, if it would be Netherlands Denmark. I would favor the Netherlands. And I think they'd be playing England July 7th in London, and that would have been interesting. But instead, they're home.
I kind of think the winner of this Italy-Belgium matchup might end up going on to win it. I've been on Italy since the beginning of the tournament, but it's unfortunate they've drawn the worst possible opponent for this round. They couldn't pick a worse team to want to go against.
No, agreed, and I'm in total agreement. I think that the favorite comes out of this match.
Yeah, I would normally lean towards Italy, but I don't really like the odds. I mean, they've got Italy as the favorite, and I'm just having a tough time justifying actually betting on Italy as a favorite in that match, even with the injuries.
You know what? I hadn't seen odds. They're favored. That surprises me a bit.
I mean, they're plus money on the three-way line, but Belgium's plus, I think Belgium's like 2-1 and Italy's like plus 130 or something like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I guess De Bruyne is out for that game probably, so that's probably what's affecting the line.
Belgium plus 240, the draw plus 210, Italy plus 135. That's the three-way.
Probably not going to touch it.
Italy's been impressive. It's kind of like the Canadians in the NHL. They have that chemistry going, and they may not have the best players on the field, but they're getting it done. But this is obviously it's a very tough matchup for them to win in advance. So I had Carmine and Andrew McGinnis on for the first time on the Predictive Playbook, and it was an awesome show having those two guys talk about Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, with Montreal getting walloped the other night by the defending Stanley Cup champions, Tampa Bay Lightning. Seems like Tampa Bay has all the world championships now, and looks like they are well on their way to defending this one. But I have a system here that has nothing to do with the side, because Tampa Bay's get this, guys. Tampa Bay's minus 210 money line. Minus 1.5 puck line, plus 120. I mean, if you saw that in baseball, you would know it was a mistake. But because of the nature of this matchup and the fact that it'll probably be likely to be a one-goal win for Tampa Bay, I think that's the reason why. But in this particular game, and Carmine and Andrew were in agreement with this. So the three of us, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. It was our debut show, but the three of us agreed that the over was to play tonight. The line is over 5 goals right now. So you're going to bet over with a home team, total of 5 or lower. Team that has dominated opponents in the third period, outscoring them by at least a quarter of a goal or more goals per game. And the game is being played after the 41st game of the regular season, which is the halfway point, and includes the playoffs spanning the last 15 years. 82 and 40, 68% winning bet says take the over tonight. And I think I'm much better with the gridiron kind of stuff, but hockey's been kind to me this year. And I kind of see this game going, 3-1, third period, 2 minutes to go. Montreal pulls the goalie because they have to. They somehow get a goal, or there's an empty netter, and that at least gives you the push. And at 5.5, I think I'd be scared to death to bet the over. But again, this is another one of those situations where you can bet 50% pre-flop on the over and see how that first 10 minutes goes. Because if it's slower than a snail and there's not many shots on goal, which is what everybody's expecting from Tampa Bay again tonight, and Montreal is somehow competing evenly with them, you're going to have a chance to probably get this at 4.5, and that's a big half goal. I mean, it's a monumental half goal. So that is my take on the Stanley Cup. And I want to transition ourselves into the NBA and see what you guys think of tonight's game. I have a play on it. So as I did yesterday, I guess I'm trying to be like Rafael Palmeiro and the rest of those guys and just take the fifth and not comment on the game. I'll turn it over to Mr. Veno and see if he has any thoughts on tonight's game in the NBA.
Well, I do have a play, John, but we could talk about the game for sure. Again, do or die for Phoenix, right? We were talking earlier about, or do or die for the Clippers, excuse me. We were talking earlier about how Milwaukee kind of treated last night's game as if it was a W because of the injury situation to Trae Young, and it looked as if in their attempt to clinch first time around, the Phoenix Suns almost thought that they were going to be able to roll out the balls and get a W. I remember reading a little article where Ty Lue, who was no stranger to 3-1 deficits, told his team it all starts with the first quarter. We have to win these quarters one at a time, brick by brick. That's the only way we're going to come out of this hole. So I played first quarter, and first quarter LA just came out, and Phoenix really didn't respond until I think they finally took their first lead in the third quarter. Chris Paul obviously has vowed that there'll be far more sense of urgency here tonight in this particular matchup. I think, what we were saying earlier, guys, at least in my case, the Zubats injury has everything to do with this. We've seen two different series played within one here. You saw two games, 1 in 5, where the LA Clippers played small lineup, game 5 out of necessity, and in those games where they ran with mostly their small lineup, the games were faster paced, the games went over the total rather easily. The 3 games in between, when Ty Lue made his adjustments in game 2 and decided he was going to start Zubats and Pat Beverly, they became more of a grind. We saw 3 straight unders, one of the ugliest games in playoff basketball since, Alonzo Mourning's Miami Heat against Larry Johnson and the Knicks, Pat Ewing and the Knicks back in the mid to late 90s. So we'll see. I think Zubats, from what I'm seeing here, guys, it looks as if it might be a no-go for him again. Even if he does go, it doesn't look – he's actually got some ligament damage. Now, Joel Embiid played on ligament damage, but we can't put Zubats in Joel Embiid's category. But what he does, just his presence in the game, is he mucks it up. Man, that could make a difference in this one. I think Phoenix, for what it's worth, comes out of this with a 4-2 series win. The Clippers haven't, repeated performances consistently enough for me. And it seems like whatever we see last isn't what continues these last couple of series here. Everybody, you jump on the Milwaukee bandwagon after last game, it looks like they're impossible to beat, and Atlanta comes out and whacks them. Granted, Giannis got hurt in the third quarter, but Milwaukee was still being beaten pretty well without Trae Young. And then we saw Phoenix, go up 3-1. And I heard a lot of chatter. Phoenix is the best team left in the playoffs. They're going all the way. And next thing you know, LA beats them. These games have been close. That's one narrative I never really understood, is that Phoenix is clearly the best team, because Game 2, it's a miracle alley-oop to Ayton that wins the game for Phoenix. Game 3, they get destroyed. Game 4, they win 84-80. But again, Paul George and his free throws at the end of a game kind of screwed that one up when LA was in position to come back and steal one. And then Game 5, Clippers win. So I just think Phoenix at this point in time, rotation-wise, if they come to play, they are the better team. The without Kawhi stuff at some point begins to really hurt the Clippers, and I don't know that Paul George, even if he does go crazy, I don't know that they get through this one. I think a determined Chris Paul is probably the way I'd look. There's a couple of props in this, John, that I think are worth mentioning real quick. I think DeAndre Ayton, in the last game without Zubats, DeAndre Ayton seemed like he would be an absolute go-to guy with no problem. But looking at some of the film study that was done on that game, there seemed to be a disconnect at times between the guard tandem of the Phoenix Suns and DeAndre Ayton, who, for what it's worth, from what I read from a couple of Phoenix writers, believe that DeAndre Ayton, as talented as he is, still has a lot to learn about the game itself on the fly. They showed a lot of examples where the lane was wide open for DeAndre Ayton cuts and Chris Paul was waiting, and Ayton never saw the opening and never moved. So if some of that stuff gets straightened out tonight, and if Zubats isn't in the middle to clog it up, I think you're going to see big numbers out of DeAndre Ayton in this one. I think last game the points, rebounds, assist total was 29.5. He had gone over that 3 times out of 4 games. I think he's probably a real good prop play here, points, rebounds, assists. If Phoenix at some point tried to force it a little bit too much, the issue with Ayton, and instead of shooting a lot of mid-range jumpers, which Chris Paul would normally do, he didn't, expecting to feed Ayton. But I think a lot of that gets corrected here. So I think Ayton is a pretty good prop play over. And I think Jay Crowder's points, if you're looking for a veteran on Phoenix who, aside from Chris Paul, has been in this situation before, playoff situation, it would be Jay Crowder. And he's been non-existent for a couple of games now. So I think he'll snap out. I think Jay Crowder points and rebounds over the total are probably worth it as well. So I'd look those 2 ways as far as props are concerned.
That sounds good. I just looked up the odds on that. 29.5 points, rebounds, assists, minus 107, good vig. And I don't see the points and rebounds for some strange reason.
How about just points for Crowder, John?
All right, just points. Crowder over 9.5 plus 106.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who shoots threes in the game. He's been off a little bit, but you would expect that to come around. So I think those 2, we'll change it to Crowder points over. I think those 2 are good ways to look.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I can tell you this, guys. I will share this with everyone on this game. I can't resist it. Remember I brought up months ago, over 235, you bet it. Under 215, you bet it. And it was hitting 68%. For the regular season, the under in games of 215 points or lower went 80 and 40 with 6 pushes. That's 67%. And guess what in the playoffs? 9, 3, and 1 for 75%. So it's actually ticked up just a little bit. Obviously a much smaller sample size, but this game is lined at, I think, 214, 213 and a half. So you may want to take a look in that direction, I think, in this game. And the way the games are being played, it only makes sense. So that's my 2 cents on the NBA playoff game. Let's see what Jesse has to say about this.
Well, as you, I also have a play on the game up for sale, so I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, really. But, I'm not going to mention whether I got a play on the side or the total, but I will say that I thought Rob's analysis was spot on. I mean, he seems to favor the Suns and the under, and I would agree with both of those assessments. And one thing I'll add is just that I mean, I was looking at the shooting for the Clippers in the last game. Paul George, 15 of 20. Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris both having huge nights. And and it wasn't really a blowout. These guys are hitting every shot, and it's still not even a blowout. And those kind of numbers aren't sustainable. I mean, you can't expect Paul George to hit 75% of his shots tonight. You can't expect Marcus Morris and Reggie Jackson to chip in with 50 points between the two of them either every night. We get back to normal averages and get back to the norm, and it seems that that's going to favor both the under and it's going to favor the Phoenix Suns.
I like it. Tony Mejia, final thoughts on this NBA playoff game?
Well, I was like Rob. I waited for the Zubac news, and then I said I'm out of time right after the NBA tip-off show. So, like, all my plays are in. It's I've got a side, a total, and 3 props. And one I'll give it out here because I've given it out all day, but it is a client prop, and I'll wait to give that out when we go around at the end. But I mean, look, the Suns no-showed. There's no question about it, but there was a reason for it. I don't think they were prepared for no Zubac, and they were not prepared for the approach that Tyronn Lue and the Clippers took of really crowding DeAndre Ayton with smaller bodies, but sending multiple guys at him. And Ayton wasn't ready to handle that, but they missed Ayton a bunch. I mean, what Rob read about, Chris Paul not seeing Ayton flash or cut to the rim the way he should have. There were also instances, and I was watching because I lost on that 29.5 point rebound prop, despite the fact that he got double-digit rebounds, is that Ayton had his arms up when Crowder was bum rushing the paint, and they called him for an offensive foul, which when he came out of the corner, which is rare for him. There were instances where on second chances, guys got offensive rebounds and went up themselves instead of looking to find Ayton, who's the preferred lob partner. So I think that there will be a concerted effort to get him the ball more in this game. And if Zubac plays, I think Ayton is more comfortable with a big on him. If he doesn't play, I think he'll be better prepared for what the Clippers will bring to the table with Terrence Mann and Morris and Reggie. Reggie Jackson didn't get much time on him, but Patrick Beverley did. Patrick Beverley was out there boxing him out and doing so successfully, which doesn't say much for Ayton's effort there. So I think watching film, the Phoenix Suns will have a better effort here. I also think that Marcus Morris Sr. is an interesting fade in this matchup because he played 39 minutes in Game 5. So a guy that had been battling knee soreness and really had been limited to the point where he was pulled from the starting lineup, suddenly coming back in and being the catalyst over the first 10 minutes to where he started 5 of 6 to key that 20-5 opening game run. Now has to turn around and play meaningful minutes once again, potentially as in the middle. If Zubac is gone, having played that much after complaining of knee soreness, that doesn't bode well for them. But the Clippers do have more fans in the building now. It'll be interesting to see whether they spur them on or it becomes a situation where that works against them. But at this point, like I said earlier, Phoenix Suns, if you like them tonight, you should bet them for the NBA title at this point because there's so much uncertainty in the East. You're unlikely to get a better price if the Suns do wrap this up in 6.
I like that last part the best. That is the best bet to make. If you like the Suns, get them now. Because if they win, they obviously advance, and then it's a mess in the East because who knows who's going to come out of there. And they're all banged up. You see it in the NFL sometimes in the playoffs. The wild card rounds, especially the team, is had a good season. They make the playoffs, but they're just dinged across the board. Injury lists look like a mash unit, and the team they're playing against just happens to be a little bit more healthier, and the healthier team wins. So I like the Suns bet a lot. So let's start our final round of best bets here. We'll try to keep it to approximately 2 minutes each, and we'll actually have this show at exactly 1 hour, which we've had shows that have gone. I think the record is 2:33.
Yikes!
2:33.
My mom won't even watch that long.
Yeah, I know. I mean, who would want to watch any, especially a host like me? I mean, you can only hear PGA golf, and I could do bowling maybe. I could give some bowling tips and, cooking tips on the grill. That might keep people entertained, but we'll do the final round here. We went 7-1, guys, yesterday with our final bets, and we're going to keep track of those going forward because we're not afraid to admit when we had a crap night, but we're doing our best here, and we're giving out real picks. These are not picks that we're throwing darts at a dartboard. These are picks that we believe in and are providing them to you free. So, Rob, you are at the plate.
Well, I'll reiterate what I said, John, because I kind of jumped the gun. But I've played 2 props personally today in this NBA game, and they are DeAndre Ayton up and over the points, rebounds, and assists. Like Tony, I was on the wrong end of this the other night. I thought for sure he was going to get over. His numbers throughout the series indicated that he would get over. But again, there were some problems in communication, and like I say, some people close to the Phoenix situation that I was reading just think that Ayton wasn't reading open lanes, open cutting lanes to go. And by the time he saw it, it was too late. I don't think it'll be too late here. To the coaching point that Tony was making about Phoenix being unprepared, I'll say this. Ty Lue has landed the first punch this entire series. He's been the first guy to get it right, and Monty Williams has been the guy to get punched and then have to come back and counter punch. He's done a pretty good job of that. Maybe he'll get his offense in gear tonight if it is an offense that sees a defense without Zubac. But I think Ayton gets over. And the second, the Jay Crowder prop I actually had for myself personally, a points and assists number, but I will use points over 9.5. I just think that's far too low for him in this game. A guy who's been in this spot before, a guy who can come out, and I mean, he could have 9 points within a 2-minute span of this game, because when he starts shooting threes and making them, they go to him, and he shoots about 5 or 6 of these every single game. So I'm going to look to Jay Crowder over 9.5 as one prop, 9.5 points, and DeAndre Ayton over the 29.5 rebounds, points, and assists all combined. Those would be the 2 best bets for this show.
Love it, Rob. I have them written down, and we all know I like the over in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs at 5. And does anybody have the VIG on it just to get like a consensus bet? So I'll even take the worst bet we see.
5 and minus 125 at Westgate. Minus 120 at William Hill.
Well, we'll put down minus 125, even though that goes against my betting religion of never laying VIG like that. But again, consider the in-game opportunity to bet 50% pre-flop and see how this game goes. And, if it starts out, 2-2 in the first period, then you're golden. But you don't have the other 50%. But it's unlikely that's going to occur. And, to use the soccer term, the game's probably going to be a little cagey. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Montreal really, really bring the physicality part. Because they got to send a message now. You can't go down 2-0 and say, well, that's okay. We're going to win the next 2 in Montreal, because they're going to probably be upwards of a 170 dog at home. And that doesn't happen too often in the NHL. And I can tell you off the top of my head, I forget what the numbers are off my database, but they're not good in the Stanley Cup final. Dogs over 150 are just not good bets. So I think Montreal, if they're going to do it and make this a competitive Stanley Cup, it has to be tonight. And they're going to have to score goals. They're not going to win 1-0. Not against Tampa Bay's offense. And then the other bet I have is in the PGA Tour. Now, this is a long shot, guys. This is pizza money. And the guy's name is McNeely. And I'm actually trying to scroll down and find his odds. But
Peter McNeely?
Yeah,
Maverick
fought twice.
Maverick McNeely. This is pizza money. Okay, so this is a guy that's been on the rise on my charts. He's playing better and better and better. Shots tee to green is improving. Putting, he can stick it close to the pin. I'm not worried about the putting. If he gets hot, I mean, let's face it, any PGA Tour professional that gets hot with the putter is going to go low. And this course, I think, is going to suit him. And he's 60-1 to win, 9-1 top 5, and 450 plus 450 to 1 for a top 20. And I think that first one actually was top 10. No, it's top 5, top 10 is what I just read to you. Winner, top 5, top 10. And I'll add that to my over Canadians, or over game 2 in the Stanley Cup Finals. So now we move on to Jesse's best bets of the show.
Well, I was going to give a baseball pick, but I changed my mind at the last minute. I'm a little inspired by all your guys' talk of basketball props, and had a quick look just now, and I'm going to go with Chris Paul over 1.5 made threes, minus 105 at Bet365. I'm looking at Chris Paul was 0 for 6 from beyond the arc in the last game. He was 0 for in the previous game, 0 for 3. So he's on an 0 for 9 run in the last 2 games. I'm looking for him to break out of that slump. Interestingly enough, prior to the last 2 games where he's 0 for 9 combined, he had made 2 or more threes in 4 of the previous 5 games. So he's going to get the attempts. He attempts anywhere from 6 to 8 threes a game, and I just don't see him, shooting as poorly for the 3rd consecutive game. I think chances are he'll make at least 2 threes.
I like that bet quite a bit too. I can honestly say that will be a bet that I will make tonight. That I'm seeing plus 100 vig at DraftKings for what it's worth. So, Mr. Mejia, you get to be the anchor again. I think that's 2 days in a row now.
All right. I hope to bring home a winner as easy as Kevin Herter and avoid a loss like I forget which baseball game I gave out. I lost all of them. All right. The Bucks are announcing that Antetokounmpo is listed as doubtful for tomorrow. So maybe that's good news for him going forward. That they're not declaring him out. I again don't expect to see him tomorrow, but maybe he'll be around for the finals if his teammates pull through. My prop, and this is a client prop, but I've given it out all day. So if you're watching, enjoy it. It is on Cameron Payne, who had 29 points and 9 assists in game 2, filling in for Chris Paul, and then averaging 20 and 9 for those first 2 games. And then he turned his ankle in game 3 after a quick bucket, and his shot just 4 for 18 over his last 3 games. And that's clearly been a factor in why the Suns have been slowed down. Cameron Johnson has basically replaced him as a 6th man. But I wouldn't bury Cameron Payne just yet. It's a week since his ankle injury. I think he'll be healthy. He's played 20 minutes and I think something like 13 or 14 since. So he'll have opportunities, and I think he'll shoot the ball a lot better. His scoring prop is 7.5 points, and it actually is paying plus money at FanDuel, something like 106. So give me Cameron Payne getting 8 points.
I like that one too. That makes total sense to me because you're right. He could come off the bench and easily score that many. And that's a great look. That is a very good look. So I guess at the point of the show at Manny's Pub, I always get a little sad because it's over and we have to wait till tomorrow to do another one. But seriously, big shout out to the guys in the chat room. We appreciate you being there every single day. The questions are meaningful. I did miss the guy, what's his name, Max something that calls DeChambeau Meathead. I was interested to see what he was going to say about this tournament, but unfortunately, there's no prop bet to bet that DeChambeau misses the cut. I guess the books wouldn't take that risk because it's very likely he'll make the cut. He's the defending champ, and he shot 25 under last year. And it's actually the event where people started to get his name and how far he was actually consistently hitting the ball. And it's been a year since then. So I guess that'll do it, guys. I appreciate you being on. I appreciate your time. Time is valuable. So for Tony Mejia, Jesse Schulle, Rob Veno, and myself, the Predictive Playbook, sportsmemo.com, WagerTalk.com, may all the wins always be yours.